Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Network Podcast. My name is Sebastiano, and I'm joined by Joseph Inzano.
What's going on, guys?
Today is episode number 12, and we're going to be talking about music this episode. Before we get into our usual underrated, I just had a few things to say. First of all, thank you, because this week we passed 500 total plays on our podcast, which is pretty good for only 12 episodes in, so hopefully we can keep getting our numbers up. And from now on, we want to go over the previous week's underrated, because I don't know if you guys know, we do put them on our polls, what we talk about. So if you don't have our Instagram, it's _network_pod. So our first one was The Office, overrated or underrated? What do you think that's going to be, Joe, based on our poll?
I think it's going to be...
You saw the results early on.
I don't remember, though. I think it's going to be overrated.
It is 56% overrated, 44% underrated, which, clearly, so it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. That's understandable. And saying that not all the seasons were great, that makes sense. Then Stranger Things, you might be disappointed to know, was 62% overrated.
I remember being surprised by that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought everyone was quite a big fan of Stranger Things. Maybe they just thought it was correctly rated, but if they had to pick one, they'd pick overrated. Not too sure about that one. And luckily, you guys supported us on Friends. I'll be honest, I put overrated for both of them because that's what the show deserved. So it was 77% to 23%. Joe, what do you have to say about that poll?
I think that's, it is. I think that's the right conclusion.
All right, then we got Star Wars, which I think might have been our closest poll at 52% underrated, 48% overrated.
Wow.
Only with two more people voted in the underrated column. So they're showing some support for your favorite movie. Then we got superhero movies, which was 54% underrated and 46% overrated.
I could see that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, they think of Marvel, and sometimes they don't necessarily think what overrated or underrated is. They're just like, oh, I like Marvel, I'm going to pick underrated. But I feel like overall, if you look at the fan bases and everything, I still personally think they're overrated. And then the least close poll, I'm happy to say, was the Adam Sandler movies, which was 76% underrated.
I can't believe that. I cannot believe that. I really can't.
I thought we were gonna have some Adam Sandler haters on the on the Instagram, but we had some supporters. Let me tell you guys about this last poll. Which is better, Star Wars or Harry Potter? Joe sent me a little text. Star Wars went out to an early lead, but it finished 52% in favor of Harry Potter.
No, it did not.
35 to 32. Yes, he doesn't believe me. I'm going to send him a screenshot right now. I purposely kept quiet.
Saba made 6 different accounts to go and vote for Harry Potter.
Hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, You got to make sure Harry Potter wins. But that was an incredibly close poll. Harry Potter came out on top. I guess, people have their own preferences, but
that's ridiculous.
Shout out to all the viewers for letting Harry Potter win by 35 votes to 32 votes.
That's actually ridiculous.
Joe ain't too happy. Maybe I should have kept that for the end. He's going to be upset all podcast. Anyway, let's get right into today's topic. As I said, we're talking about music. If you want to participate in the polls, once this comes out on Tuesday morning, we're going to post our over-underrated for this week, which, as I said, is music. Let's just get right into it. Joe, first of all, overrated or underrated Taylor Swift?
Ooh. I'm going to go with overrated on Taylor Swift. Not a huge fan. Never listen. Yeah. I'm not. Taylor Swift's not my cup of tea.
What about you think in the overall society and the way people view her? You think she's overrated or underrated?
I would say overrated just because I have never really listened to her music. It's just not my kind of music, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I there's always a better... I would never go to my Apple Music and like look up Taylor Swift to put on Taylor Swift. It would just never ever happen.
Not even some of her old bangers, you
Nope.
know? Like, I can't even remember the name of the songs.
You can't remember one
Like,
song name, so
You
you can't even go. You can't go with underrated anymore. You can't remember one song.
Well, I was thinking, our personal finance teacher, we mentioned him a lot, Josh Fausti. He has got to be the biggest Taylor Swift fan. He has her posters in his wall, on his bedroom walls. At least that's what he made it sound like in class sometimes. No offense, Josh. But I don't know. I'm trying to think, because if you really think who's had that much success over the past like 10, 15 years, there are not a lot of artists that match her. And, I did listen to her maybe while I was younger, because I listened to more what was on the radio, and she was always on the radio. As I got older and I had like Spotify, Apple Music, and I kind of changed my music taste a bit, I didn't really listen to her. But if you look at the charts, even when she dropped, I feel like I didn't hear about it as much, but worldwide I think she was still breaking records. So, well, I can go either way. I'm going to go a little bit underrated, just because even though she's not personally for me, I do like some of her older music maybe, but I think overall she's underrated. Any final thoughts on Taylor Swift?
I don't see Taylor Swift getting a underrated in the polls, but maybe it'll surprise me again. I mean, somehow.
Yeah, that's a good predict the polls. I can agree with you. I think she might get an overrated just because people are going to go with their preference, but I think it's going to be a close one. All right, Joe, what's the next one we got here?
All right, we have Kanye.
I feel like we're going to get some people angry with this. Do you have some opening remarks?
Well, I can predict that the polls will be heavily underrated for Kanye, just because I know there's a lot of people that like Kanye. I like his old music a lot, but lately his music has been garbage, and I'm pretty sure he has gone off the deep end, and he's quite psychotic now, so...
Yeah, he's not a very mentally sane person. I'm going to agree with you and go overrated, although I do think the polls will say underrated. Once again, just because I say something's overrated, it doesn't mean I don't like it. It may have come across that way in the last episode especially. I think Kanye's overrated, but as you said, some of his older music, I do have quite a few of his songs.
I'm going to change mine, actually. I'm going to go underrated.
You're going to go underrated? All right, why'd you just change your mind?
Thinking back on his old albums were very good. Homecoming, it's a banger. Real Friends,
Yeah, that is a
banger.
good song.
Wolves, banger. Life of Pablo is a really, really good album. And so is, I'm blanking on the name of the album with Homecoming and Stronger. What's the album name?
Yeah, I know what you mean with like the teddy bear and the astronaut. I don't know the name of the album. But
yeah, those were
I know
good
what you're saying.
albums, man. I'm gonna go underrated, even though he's a loon now, man.
You're gonna go underrated. I'm still gonna stick with overrated. As I said, I do like those type of songs. Some of his older music was pretty good, but if you look at his whole career, and people, if they want to put him in the conversation as greatest musician of all time, greatest musician of the past 20 years, I feel like he hasn't really dropped a song that has been even mildly good in like the past 4 or 5 years, like his past few albums, whatever they were. So for that reason, I'm gonna have to go with overrated. But I can see how people say he's underrated, and just because it's overrated doesn't mean I don't like his music. I think he's got some good songs here and there. Overall, I'm gonna have to stick with overrated.
I could definitely see that. Okay.
All right, next artist. In my opinion, I said this about Friends last time. Oh no, I don't know if I can say it. I think this might be the most overrated artist, but then we have one coming up at number 5 that I also think is pretty overrated. Number 3, we have Future. Some people calling him, what's it called? A pioneer in the rap game, especially like the past 10 years. Some people called him like one of the best rappers of the last a decade. And maybe like, I do like some rap music, but I'm probably not into rap as much as a lot of other people are, which is why this is my opinion. But I think Future is extremely overrated. He doesn't really have that many good songs, if any. And I'm never listening to a song and like, wow, Future really helped the song with his feature. Example, I know you brought this up when it came out. Life is Good by Drake. Drake's part kind of banging. Then they play Future's part, and it just kind of goes all downhill from there. What do you have to say about Future, Joe?
Yeah. Wait, what song were you talking about?
Life is Good by Drake and Future.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I thought you were talking about never mind. But yeah, no, I think Future has some good songs. Low Life with The Weeknd. That's a very good song.
I'll have to give that a listen. I don't know if I listened to that.
Like some older songs, like what's the song?
March Madness?
No, Bankroll Mafia. What's this? What's Bankroll Mafia? Let me look it up real quick.
And just to give some other insight.
Hyenas.
As I said, what was that?
Hyenas is the song name. Very good song.
So are you going to disagree with me? Going underrated?
Nope, I'm going overrated still. Wait, hold up. Never mind. I'm thinking of Young Thug.
Oh,
My bad. You're talking about overrated.
another
man.
overrated artist.
He's
You know,
talking about
overrated
that.
artist. I can see why Young Thug gets in your head. It's an honest mistake.
I thought there
But,
was Future in that song. It was Young Thug. No, I was thinking of overrated artists. It was Young Thug. Young Thug's another one. Ruined Goodbyes and Post. Was it Goodbyes? that he
Yeah.
Destroyed. Terrible.
He just completely ruined that song. And he
But-
was the one that featured on Bad Boys with Juice WRLD, right? That song was garbage. I don't even know if
What?
you remember it because you probably listened to it once and never listened
I
to it
don't,
again.
I don't. What's the
Anyway,
song
back-
that he made? I know. All right.
What's what?
The song that he made with I think it was The Weeknd. I'm not sure.
Young
never mind.
Thug and The Weeknd.
The London. Who was on The London?
Oh yeah. It was J. Cole,
J. Cole.
and it was like they made a remix, but they took out Young Thug, and even though it was his song, because everyone else was so much better
His part
on the
is
song.
so bad. His part is terrible.
That's how you know maybe you're just not quite doing something right. But back to Future. Now that you've got Young Thug out of your head, Future overrated or underrated?
I think the way people talk about him, I think he's overrated. But he does have some good songs too.
Yeah, I agree. People, as I said, they put him as like one of the best artists of the decade, a pioneer. And maybe if I knew more about rap and I looked at how it's changed, I would think that. But I'm just like, I go by how his songs sound and how I like them. I think he's got to be overrated. For number 4, we got a controversial one. We don't have an artist, but a genre. This is country music, overrated or underrated?
Matty Mo is not going to be happy with me. But this is a tough one, actually.
You can't go.
It's
can
tougher
start
than
with
I
this
thought it would be,
discussion.
but it's overrated, if I'm going to be honest.
Ooh.
It's
I
good
disagree with you.
in short spurts, and sometimes you're like, you listen to country, you're like, oh, wow, this is pretty good. And then it slowly fades until it comes back. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but here's my argument. When I often think of overrated or underrated, I think of how it is viewed by society. And country has got to be the most hated music genre of all time, and I don't think it deserves that. I think there's a time and if you play country 24/7, then there might be something a little wrong with you in the head, I'll be honest. But it has a time and a place. You know, you're at a family barbecue, you're at a 4th of July party, which tomorrow might be for some of you. You know, you're at the beach, you're listening to some country, it's good vibes. It's like the ultimate good vibe music. For that reason, I think it's underrated. There's a time and a place. You can't listen to that 24/7, but I think you can't listen to any artist or any genre 24/7. So I think, and the fact that everyone hates it so much makes it even more underrated in my opinion. But I think the polls are going to go overrated pretty substantially in my opinion.
I'm just not a huge fan, especially of Luke Combs. I am not a fan of Luke Combs.
I'll be honest, I don't think Matt's listening to our podcast, so probably get by on that one. Anything else to add about country, or you want to go into our 5th and final overrated, underrated?
I think Old Town Road is the best country song of all time.
Some country fans are probably dying on the inside right now. Anyway, last artist. This one's gonna go. We're gonna go back to an artist. for overrated or underrated is Tyler the Creator. I've heard some of his songs. I remember seeing some of his performances. Speaking of someone that doesn't seem like they're quite right in the head, Tyler the Creator. We got some big fans. If our friend Gianna's listening, good old Architecture Pal, future Drexel Dragon, massive Tyler the Creator fan. I just don't know what exactly is wrong with her in her head, because man, is he garbage.
We really picked some easy ones here, because this is just huge, way overrated, terrible artist. I don't even want to talk about him.
I remember the song where he just like screaming randomly. I think it was like I think he performed it at the Grammys too. I couldn't even tell you the name of the song because I have no idea.
There's one good song. I listened to it. Now I gotta look it up here. And he doesn't even sing the part that I like. So there's somebody else that sings it.
Do you know who it's with?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It is Gone Gone, Thank You.
Featuring, or who else is on the song?
It's not. It doesn't say featuring anybody, but it's a girl that sings the part.
Like
it's
No
like,
Bystanders by Travis Scott. It features Juice WRLD, but I don't know why it doesn't say featuring Juice WRLD. I know there are some songs like that. I don't know why.
I don't know. I just know that the part I like, he is not in, and that's the only song I really like by Tyler the Creator. Although Zach said his new album, there's a couple good songs.
That's no coincidence. I wouldn't even give him a chance, which maybe is unfair, but if there's an artist I know I don't like, sometimes you ever like have a preconceived notion about an artist, so you won't even give their music a chance, or if someone's showing you their song already in your head, you're like, oh, this sucks, before you give it a chance. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, like if somebody came up to me and said, yo, this new Cardi B song slaps, I would just have a hard time believing that person.
Because you're in the whole time you're listening to, you're like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, and that's just what's going to be saying in your mind, even if it actually is decent. And that's like, it goes vice versa with artists you like. Even if they drop a song that's not great, you'll be like, oh man, it's my favorite artist, it has to be good. So we finished our overrated and underrated. Look out on our polls for our polls on Tuesday morning for those. Let's see what you guys think. We did predict some of yours. I feel like they got to put Tyler the Creator overrated.
No doubt.
Overall, there'll be some diehard Tyler the Creator fans going underrated, but I think overall our fans, they've got to be they got to go for overrated. All right. Let's go with our next topic, which Joe and I picked 5 of our favorite albums of all time and 5 of our favorite artists of all time. So Joe, how did you do it? You picked your 5 favorite artists and then an album from each, right?
Yeah, I don't know, like even favorite artists might be there might be one that I forgot since my playlist isn't updated, but yeah, I went with like my 5 that I think are probably my favorite. Yeah, it's tough, because then you think of somebody else, then you're like, oh, he could definitely be on this list.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And for me personally, once I give you guys my list, or we're going to go one by one, there's definitely some recency bias on this. So we'll go with number 1.
Yeah, same.
Tickets to My Downfall. We'll do albums first by Machine Gun Kelly. Within the past year and a half, pretty much since it dropped in 2020, I've been listening to it a lot, and I just really, really like it. Some of my favorite songs are Forget Me Too featuring Halsey, Drunk Face, which is by himself, and he has a good song with Black Bear. I feel like most, if not all, of the songs on the album are really good, and I thought it was kind of just like whatever I was doing is in the shower, on the way to work, during working out at the gym, I could listen to that in all scenarios. I really like that album. Joe, what's your number 1 pick for this isn't necessarily in order, but your favorite album, one of them.
All right, so I didn't do order.
Yeah, mine's not in order either.
All right, we'll just go. The first Juice WRLD, Death Race for Love. That's on there. It could have been. How am I blanking on the first album name?
Goodbye and Good Riddance.
Goodbye and Good Riddance. Cause it's a toss up between the two, but I think I just have better memories. Like sophomore year, listening to Death Race for Love. Man, it just brings back so many memories, and every song on the album's a banger.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to bring up too. What I love about music is, I'm sure everyone else has experienced this. You just like hear a song randomly, and for like a split second, you're just like transported back to a time when you were listening to it constantly. I also have Death Race for Love on my top top 5 albums, and this one it's like not as specific, but songs like Empty. I remember I joined a new besides like sophomore or junior year whenever it came out, in like architecture we were jamming to that. Then also I joined a soccer team, and like some of my friends, we just like kept listening to it on our way to Chipotle, like Empty specifically, and like Hear Me Calling, Robbery. I remember singing that a lot. Oh yeah, those songs I really like. Flaws and Sins too. And even there were some songs that I used to skip, and now going back and listening to it, it just has so many bangers.
Yeah.
So I also got that on my list as well. So that's my number 2. What do you guys your number 2?
My number 2 is A Love Letter for You 3. Are we doing artists or albums?
Albums.
Oh, we're doing albums. Okay, so A Love Letter for You 3. By Trippie Redd, which has some bangers on it. Also reminds me of like, what is that? That's got to be sophomore year too, right?
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? I think it was sophomore or June. It might have been junior year, because we were driving. When we drove to, we used to go to Chick-fil-A, like, or not. We used to. It was like 3 times that one year. We went to like Chick-fil-A on a Friday or Saturday night, and I remember we were just bumping that album all the way down there. Like Love Scars. Oh man, that has so many good songs.
It does. It has Topanga, Loyalty for Royalty. A lot of good songs.
Yeah, I didn't include that on my top 5, but that actually is an honorable mention. Either Love Letter to You 3. I also like Love Letter to You 4.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
remember
one too.
actually listening to a Love Letter to You 4 on the way to the gym, and then I got a call from my mom. Oh, you guys don't have school today because of COVID. And I was like, oh yes, a snow day. And then I never stepped foot back in high school, because
That's crazy.
that was the end of that. And then as my 3rd album on my list, again, probably some recency bias, Justice by Justin Bieber.
Oh.
I didn't listen to it right away when it dropped, but once, Joe was a big fan of it. Once I listened to it, I have to say, once again, this song has almost all bangers. I think Peaches is the most overrated song on the album.
I agree.
That seems like what everyone's like gravitating towards, and you're like, oh, did you listen to Justin Bieber's album? They're like, oh, I really like Peaches, and that's what's getting played on the radio, which I can see it's kind of like a radio song, but in my opinion, songs like Ghost and
Ghost
Deserve
is so good.
You, As I Am with Khaled.
Yeah.
I think those are some of the better songs on the album. I also like the one with Lil Uzi, There She Go. I think that's got a lot of good songs on it. And if you haven't listened to this album, I feel like if you don't like rap, my other albums you won't like. But regardless of what genre you like, I think you should give this album a listen. What about you, Joe, for a 3rd one?
I Am a Belieber. I actually don't. I was going to come back to find that. I thought that album was great, but it's not on my top 5. I was thinking about it though. I've got Beer Bongs and Bentleys by Post Malone.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was a bad song on this album, and when it came out, I was in Universal in Florida, and I remember my friend Bose texted me and asked me if I'd listened to it yet, and man, we just listened to it the whole trip down there. And man, the album was just so good. And yeah, I don't know. There were just so many good songs in the album. I have so much nostalgia.
You're stealing mine. I was going to go with a different 4th one, but I also have Beer Bongs and Bentleys on my list. I don't remember exactly where I was when I was listening to it first, but I remember, once again, I can't remember the years. I think this was 2018. I think that was sophomore year. I feel like it came out in the springtime too, so we were just like, the weather was getting better. We were just jamming out to this song. Some of my favorite, I don't think like Rockstar and Psycho, which are like some of like the more well-known ones, I don't think those are the best. I do really like Candy Paint, Stay, which is played a lot. I used to really like Other Side. I still think
Yeah.
that's a really good song. Just looking at all these, I can say they're all really good songs. Really, as you said, not
Sugar Rap was one of my
yeah.
favorites.
Probably
Over
the only
Now.
one that I would skip would be the Jonestown interlude because I don't really like interludes.
Yeah, me neither.
And but besides that, every other song is a bit of a banger. So you took the fourth right out of my mouth. Do you have
I wasn't expecting.
now you're fourth?
I
I know it's not going to be the same as my last one. So
No, I've got
What's your-
The Weekend. Or The Weekend. I've got my artist names next to my albums, but After Hours by The Weekend.
yeah,
And this came out like right before COVID hit. And we just did it come out right before COVID hit?
not right before. I think it came out either the fall or like going into the winter, maybe October, November of our senior year. So it was like a few months before COVID.
Yeah.
But I remember listening to it a lot in the winter time.
Yeah, I know there wasn't a lot of other music out. I know Uzi just dropped his album, which was
That was like right before COVID. I think
Yeah.
that was beginning of March.
but I thought After Hours was so good. And I like The Weeknd, and I just think there were so many good songs on the album. I mean,
What were some of your favorites?
Blinding Lights. I know it's cliche because it's probably, it was the most overplayed, but that is such a good
Blinding
song.
Lights and Heartless came out as singles.
Heartless
so they were
was a
naturally
banger,
gonna be like
too.
overplayed and stuff.
But,
You looking it up real quick?
Yeah, I gotta look at the list now.
All right, while you look that up, I just gotta say this is another one that's probably overplayed, but is, in my opinion, the best on the album. Save Your Tears. That song
Really?
is so good. After Hours was actually one of my other honorable mention. Rather, I crossed it off because I kind of knew that you were gonna have it, and I didn't want to have exactly the same. I thought that album was really good. Maybe I need to give it another chance because I feel like I haven't really listened to it, especially
Yes.
all the way through that much.
Escape from
But,
LA is so good. Snow Child's good. Heartless, Blinding Lights, After Hours. Faith is really good. There's just a lot of good songs on this album. All around
Hardest
great
to
album.
Love. I remember that's got like a good beat in the back.
It's a great album.
All right, going for my last one. I'm sure a lot of you may not have heard of. It's by my main man, Louis Capaldi. It's called Divinely Uninspired to a Hellish Extent. I only knew him, Someone You Loved, which you might know. But then I listened to the whole album when I was in, I think it was fall term. I don't know exactly when this came out. Let me look it up. But when I was in my fall term, it was like a kind of chill music. It came out 2019, so I'm a little late on this one. But I listened to it while I did homework for a bit. And I thought it was really chill, pretty easy to listen to. It is a bit of a sad album, but once again, it's not rap music. So if you're kind of open to other types of music, I'd recommend giving that a listen at least one or two times. I like that one a lot. Joe, your fifth and final one.
My fifth and final is Year the Gentleman by Neo.
Really,
Yes.
I was not expecting that one.
And this is a top 3 album. I don't think it's number 1, but it's definitely top 3. And this album, I just have so much nostalgia. I mean, my dad would play it all the time when I was little, and it just has so many good songs on it. Like the instrumentals are so good, and
Does that have Miss Independent on it?
yep, Miss Independent, Single, Mad, a lot of really good songs. Part of the List, Stop This World. It's R&B, so a little bit different, but I think it's a top 3 album for me.
Yeah, it's something I haven't listened to, so maybe I'll have to give it a listen. I really only know Miss Independent. But that wraps up our top 5. So we both had Beer Bongs and Bentleys and Death Race for Love. I also had Divinely Uninspired to a Hellish Extent by Louis Capaldi, Justice, Justin Bieber, and Tickets to My Downfall by MGK. Who were what were the other 3s besides the one that we both had in common?
I had Trippie Redd, Neo, Juice WRLD, Post Malone, The Weeknd.
I was
That was
talking
my list.
about your albums.
Oh, my bad. Death Race for Love, A Love Letter for You 3, Year of the Gentleman, Beer Bongs and Bentley, After Hours.
All right, now we don't have to go over our artists. Since just say your artist one more time, because what Joe did is he picked his 5 favorite artists and then picked his favorite album from all of them.
I kind of went favorite albums to artists almost.
Okay.
I'm
so who are your
sure.
5 favorite artists? Then?
They probably correlate, like, at least 4 out of the 5 are in my top 5.
Yeah.
Juice WRLD, Trippie Redd, Post Malone in the Weekend, and Neo. They could all be up there for my top 5.
All right. So I'll admit, guys, we probably do have a bit of a stereotypical sense of music. So my top 5 artists are Machine Gun Kelly, Juice WRLD, Post Malone, Trippie Redd, and then I went with Lil Uzi. I didn't have like a favorite album, but I do, especially lately, I've been listening to him a little bit more. But speaking of us having a little bit of a stereotypical taste in music, I mean, the reason that it could be stereotypical is because it's good, but there's nothing worse than those people that just like random artists just to be different. You know what I'm trying to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like Nav fans.
Oh my god. Nav has a couple of good songs from what I listen to, but you know those people that like, not even people that listen to different ones, but they shun you because you're like oh, you like Juice WRLD and Post Malone just because everyone likes them. It's like, if they make good music, people are gonna listen to it, but like they think they're above you because they don't listen to those artists. You know the type of people I'm trying to say?
Yeah, the people. Yeah.
They're like, bro, I'm on my SoundCloud rappers, bro. I don't listen to any of the mainstream stuff. That's what the mainstream stuff. That's what they always call it.
Or the real rap, the J. Cole, the Kendrick
Oh
Lamars,
my,
you know?
oh, that's it. The real rap. I listen to rap that has a message, and then you just got them. J. Cole, yeah, Kendrick Lamar, like, bro, best rappers of all time right here.
I mean, you
Anyways.
can make the art. I don't think either of them are bad at all, but I don't know. They're not my top 5.
Yeah,
Neither
I
is
feel like
Drake.
the people that listen to them swear they're like the best of all time. Speaking of Kendrick Lamar, maybe I got to give some of his music more of a chance. I haven't really listened to any of it. I do remember his that one album that had like Be Humble, but I think he hasn't dropped since then, and I feel like that was like 5 years ago. So who knows what's going on with that. And then I was speaking of, you know, artists that have been very popular, especially lately. So I just wanted to bring up real quick, Drake, he won Artist of the Decade. I forgot what company or what organization gave him this award, but he did win Artist of the Decade. So Joe, do you think it's deserved, and do you think there are any other honorable mentions for this award?
I do think it's deserved. I just think Drake's been the most consistent, like just dropping album after album, and not that like every song on the album is a banger, but like there's always a few songs in the album that'll be like top hits, you know what I'm saying? That everybody will be listening to. Other people, maybe Justin Bieber. I don't think he's on the same level as Drake. Like I think his recent albums were very good.
I feel like he hasn't dropped like that much music, especially like the past few years. Maybe just because I haven't followed him as much, but I don't remember when he dropped an album before this one that he just released, which I put in my top 5, Justice.
I mean, 10 years is a long time. You know, I was 9, so I don't know exactly.
2010.
I wasn't listening to Drake or anybody when I was 9. But
Yeah, it's weird with Drake because I didn't give him an artist or he wasn't in my top 5 artists of all time, or he didn't have one of my top 5 favorite albums. And I feel like the best album, at least that I listened to, because it kind of came out at the same time that I started listening to more rap, was probably Views, which I thought was really good. Maybe I could have put it in my top 5, but like as of the past like 2 years, I haven't listened to that album. I don't really listen to it that much. Maybe I could have gone Drake in my top 5 over someone like Lil Uzi, because you do think of all the good songs he has. He does deserve to be up there, but he's just Mr. Consistent. Basically, he's dropping music. He's dropping music that gets popular just time and time and time again, and everyone kind of expects it. So if you think about any other artists that have really been that successful over the past 10 years, people would probably bring up someone like Kanye. But then in my opinion, over the past few years, like if we talk about the whole decade, I don't think he's been there the whole time.
No, Kanye is not winning. I'm sure people
Care to
could make the
elaborate a
argument.
little bit more on that?
I'm sure people could make the Taylor Swift argument too. I just don't listen to her enough.
Yeah, as I said, like I don't really listen to Taylor Swift, but if you talk about someone who's been there the whole decade, they've been successful the whole decade, I think Taylor Swift has got to get mentioned in that conversation. I mean, I'll look up exactly when her albums came out real quick, but she's definitely been making music from all, if not the majority of the decade, and she's always been popular. She's always won awards. She's always on top of the charts. So I think that
Yeah, looking through this list,
probably the only other one, if you really think about it.
Yeah, looking through this list, there's just nobody that can compete. There's really nobody that can. It's Taylor Swift, Drake, Justin Bieber, I'd say. Kanye.
I feel like some people might have mentioned Beyonce. I feel like she hasn't done as much.
You definitely don't hear her name as much as Drake. Not even close.
Yeah, and Taylor Swift, she dropped her first album in 2006. And she's dropped in 2010, 12, 14, 17, 19, apparently 2 in 2020.
Dude, I don't think I've heard a Taylor Swift song in like 3 years, though.
Well, that's also like once I got to high school, I would say. Freshman year, I think is when I got Spotify. So that's when I really started, like, stop listening to the radio. And I would just listen to my own music. And I feel like that's when I started listening to, like, Lil Uzi more and just Drake and other artists. If you look on the radio, that's just what it would be like. Bruno Mars, who maybe he has a case for Artist of the Decade.
I don't think so. I think he's very good, but
I think he's a little bit underrated, actually, because he does have some bangers, but I don't know about Artist of the Decade, you're right. And I just want to look up one more thing, is who's won the most Grammys? Or this also, the last thing that we want to talk about, the greatest musician or the greatest artist of all time. Are there any names that you want to throw out?
Michael Jackson.
Okay. Who else?
That album is a banger. I forgot about can't even think of the album name. With Smooth Criminal and how am I forgetting this? Thriller. Thriller's the album. You've never listened to Thriller? You don't know what Thriller is?
Of course I listen to Thriller.
Oh, okay,
I was just saying I didn't know the name of the album. Yeah, my mom, she really used to listen to Michael Jackson a lot, I feel like 5-10 years ago when I was growing up.
My dad would definitely say Michael Jackson best of all time.
Yeah, it's difficult because I can't really compare like the older generation music to now.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna think like the Beatles were hugely popular, and like music used to be more organic, kind of. It was like, oh, one person wrote it, and then it'd be like all the instrumentals, but it was really like drums, guitar, bass, and that. And now it's like all this electronic stuff in the background. Beats are kind of made just like on a computer with like the press of the buttons. You don't really have to record the sounds now. So I feel like it's really difficult to compare between generations. But I think Michael Jackson, he's definitely top 10, or he at least has to be mentioned in the conversation, I would say, for sure. As I mentioned, the Beatles, was a big fan of the Beatles. I used to listen to them a lot more when I first started playing drums. I don't listen to them right now really that much, but I think that they got to be mentioned in the conversation.
On the Rolling Stones top 100, Michael Jackson's in 35.
Wow.
Where do you think the Beatles is?
I don't know if they're going to be way ahead or way behind, but I think I'm going to go like 15th. No, 11th.
They're number 1.
All right. I think that makes sense.
What?
I mean, I mean, I could see for like the Rolling Stones. I feel we have really biased opinions, and if you look,
All right.
I mean, maybe they'll have biased opinions because they'll think like the older generation. Can you share your screen so I can see like
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of all of them? Um, but I feel like they might have a better idea, but you also have to wonder like what they're basing it off of. Because as I'm looking through it here, they do have just like the real musicians, put that in quotes, what you would say. So the top 10, they got the Beatles. Wait, scroll up a little bit. Bob
Yeah,
Dylan, Elvis Presley, the Rolling Stones, Chuck Berry, Jimi Hendrix, James Brown, Little Richard, Aretha Franklin, and Ray Charles. And to not offend my parents who I know are going to be listening to them, I of course know every single person on that list. But I can see they're more like the pioneers, and they're the people that really made a difference. Oh, Johnny Cash at 31. My dad, he's going to be happy to know if he's listening. Johnny Cash is at 31, and scroll up a little bit. He also a big fan of U2, who's at 22.
I love U2.
Bob Marley. My dad loves Bob Marley, and that's
Big
like,
fan of U2.
I wouldn't ever put on Bob Marley or Johnny Cash, but my dad he likes a lot of reggae music. He likes a lot of international music, and Johnny Cash, so he's always listening to that in the house. I really like that, but it's not something I would ever put on, like, by myself.
Yeah. I just...
See, if you look, stop right here. It's the only modern person on the list, or the first one we've seen, is Eminem, and he comes in at 82nd, or 83rd.
Jay-Z's on here, too, at 88.
Yeah, and then what else do we have?
Tupac, that's not... That's not, you know...
Yeah, at 86th. I feel like it's hard to not only just cross generations, but also like cross genres. Like, are you going to say, oh, who's better, Tupac or the Beatles? Well, it's like, you can't really compare them.
I guess you could say who's bigger at the time, but...
Maybe who made more of a difference with their genre, who won more awards, who sold more albums, possibly. I feel like that would be really the only way to do that. Once again, another person on here, the Police, in like 70th. I'm a big fan of the Police, but I would never really put them on if I was just listening to music, you know. Dr. Dre in 56. Maybe he's a little more modern.
I looked up Drake. He is not on the list.
I mean, yeah, that kind of makes sense based on everyone else that's on here. Let's just look up real quick. So, do you have a definitive answer of what's it called? Your best? Well, it can't be your best. If you try and be an unbiased opinion for best artist of all time, I think Michael Jackson's a good shout.
I'd say Michael Jackson, but like I don't, I'm saying it to. I'd just be saying it to. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I genuinely don't listen to Michael Jackson that much that I think he's the best ever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's like you got to differentiate the best ever and your favorite ever, because my favorite ever is not going to be the Beatles, Michael Jackson, people like Elvis Presley, Bob Dylan, all those people that were put in like top 10 or higher up on the list. But if you look at kind of what they've done, and I feel like maybe it's just looking back on it, it seems like everyone was listening to it. But
I think it's very strange that you have to separate your favorite from what you think the best is. Because when you think about it, you don't really do that with anything else. You know what I'm saying? Your favorite TV show is what you think the best TV show is. Your favorite movie is what you think the best movie is. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I feel like we've had this conversation before, but let's say we talked about our top 5 artists. I cannot put any of those artists anywhere near the best musician of all time. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Are you telling me that I'm going to even mention Juice WRLD, Post Malone, Trippie Redd, Machine Gun Kelly, or Lil Uzi as one of the best artists of all time?
I honestly think it's
musicians?
just because their name. And if Juice WRLD had a more... You know, if I'm not sure. I'm torn on that.
I do know what you mean. I feel like people kind of look down on rap
Yeah.
too, because maybe it's just like because we're younger. I feel like music used to be a lot more people used to listen to more of the same music. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like now there's so many different genres. Everyone's kind of branching out. And I know you looked up like the top selling artist of 2020 was BTS. We didn't even mention K-pop, which is like one of, I haven't really listened to it and I don't plan on it. I'm sure, there are a lot of people that like it. And I think worldwide it's probably one of the most listened to genres. But like I would not mention them in like the best artist of all time or best artist of the decade. Maybe they have to be mentioned, but not in my opinion. But you know what I was trying to say with the argument that it seems like genres are really dividing people, especially in like the current times.
Yeah. I think I kind of listen to all genres, so it's not, I don't dislike any genre, you know what I'm saying? Besides maybe heavy metal. I'm not a huge fan.
My older brother is a big fan of heavy metal.
I'm not a huge fan, but even I even have a few songs from like, I don't know, some like video games and stuff, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah, I have like a playlist for older songs, because I think some of the older songs are good, like some of the Beatles. And it's a little bit of Johnny Cash, because my dad always listened to it. I do like some of his songs, but I never really play it, because at the end of the day, I'm just going to play like whatever came out. I think I looked up the artist of the decade. I think this is by Billboard. Yeah. There are some people we forgot. So they got Drake at number 1, Taylor Swift at number 2, Bruno Mars at number 3, Rihanna at number 4, who I think we failed to mention this whole episode. She's got some good songs, especially when I was younger. Speaking of like what was on the radio, I feel like she used to come on a lot, and there were always some bangers. Then we got 5, Adele.
Adele.
I can see that, but I think she's only released like 2 or 3 albums. Like she released one and then took a 4 or 5 year break.
I remember when Hello came out. Oh man.
And then like going even more back in time, Someone Like You, Rolling in the Deep.
Yeah,
oh
very.
My God.
That was on the same album, no?
Hello? No, Hello was her recent album, her more recent one. Rolling in the Deep and Someone
not.
Like You was like, I gotta look that up. That's gotta be like over 10 years ago.
Hello could not be recent.
It's not recent, but Someone Like You was her first album or her older one. Someone Like You came out in 2011. Hello by Adele came out in 2015.
Okay, you're right. Okay.
I just meant like they weren't on the same album.
Jeez, she really hasn't put out a lot.
Bro, Hello came out 6 years ago? Are you joking?
It feels like longer, to be honest. I thought it was longer.
I thought it was like 2017, 2018.
I thought it was longer.
Anyway, we went on a bit of a tangent. Let me just list out, how many do they have? Oh, they have 100 of the decade. I'm not going to list that. I'll go to like 25. List them out real quick and then we can talk about it, and then that'll be it. Number 6, Ed Sheeran. 7, Justin Bieber. 8, Katy Perry. 9, Maroon 5. 10, Post Malone. Lady Gaga. Ariana Grande. Imagine Dragons. The Weeknd. Nicki Minaj. Eminem. Luke Bryan. Pink. One Direction. And Justin Timberlake. That was the top 20.
Mm-hmm. And that's for how long?
This says Billboard. Oh, it's decade and charts top artists. Gotcha. So I guess it's I think it's people that it's based on how long they've spent on the charts, which makes sense because you think Adele has Hello, that was on it for a long time. Who else? Post Malone. I think he might be Spotify's most streamed artist, or he's up there, or he has one of the most streamed song. Spotify most. Let me look it up. Number 1. What's the most streamed artists on Spotify? Oh, I was way off. This can't be. Oh, it's most monthly listeners.
I was way off.
Okay. Wikipedia, something's not right, you know, because this is not saying what. I know I saw somewhere. Oh, in the 2010s, he's the third most streamed artist. First is Drake. Second is Ed Sheeran.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot to consider. I don't know how they make these lists because there's so many different aspects that go into it. But I feel like the past 10 minutes we've been talking a lot, and we can just go down this rabbit hole of looking up certain stats about everything. So let's end it there, Joe. Anything else you want to mention about music before we wrap this up?
Nope, not really.
All right, I just want to say thank you guys for listening. This is episode 12. Hopefully in episode 13 will be the first episode that we'll have face cam. Check out on our social media because I will be uploading our audio to YouTube hopefully within the next week or two. And then, we can go for there. Hopefully we can figure out how to get some guests on now that Joe just quit his job. I just put in my 2 weeks, so I'll have a little bit more time before I go back to school. And then, we can provide some more content for you and some better content. This was the last of our, we said our next few episodes were planned. We said sports, music, movies, TV. We got through all those. So if you have a suggestion for our next episode, I'll put that on the Instagram story. Once again, it's at @the_network_pod. And as always, look out for our overrated and underrated. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
See you next week, guys.